So I'm getting ready to build a dresser and I thought I would share with you the design process and draw the dresser from start to finish using SketchUp so that you can see at least my thought process in designing furniture and some of the ways you could use SketchUp to make your designs buildable or to determine if your designs will actually come together. I think it's a great tool for visualization. But before I go into laying out the dresser or chest of drawers we're going to build, I wanted to talk a little bit about ways you can build it. Firstly, here's my preferred method, which you have legs that go all the way up. They form the core structure of the carcass. In between the legs is a panel and frame assembly, and typically there's either two raised panels or one sometimes, or two flat panels. This is the 90 percentile where I go to go for my design. It's a tried and true. It's all really strong, and it works equally well for less ornate pieces. Here it is without a raised panel. Great product, great structure. Ultimately, you can also ditch the stiles. If you've got the legs that go all the way up, you can say, no, I don't need the stiles, it's wasted work. So here, the rails for the panel and frame, the legs become the stiles instead of an extension of the stiles. And, it works equally well for an ornate sort of look. And you saw some of this in the later arts and crafts or mission style work where they adopted the leg as style. Alternatively, you can just say, I'm going to go with no legs and all style. Now in this Gothic look, you got to build a base. It's got to sit on something. There's got to be something to get it up off the ground. And forgive my little frou-frou here, I just threw that in so you would recognize that style. We've all seen pieces that are very similar that use the base because they've gotten rid of the legs as stiles or style extensions. Now it doesn't have to be ornate. You can do this in a more subdued way where you've got a very minor leg, but it's still a more ornate look. Now, alternatively, the Art Deco folks came along and said, we don't need a base, we don't need legs as part of the stiles. We can simply have legs attached to the casework. And so what you'll see here, I'm going to turn this upside down a little bit, is they simply extend the stiles. And they extend the stiles and the bottom rail to form a bit of an apron where you can then get a leg anchored securely and it butts up against a drawer web. Not a bad way of doing it, but and it's also effective in a very plain look. Me personally, if you're going to go that minimalistic, you can sort of go back to the style becomes the leg, and that's also very simplistic. It's also easy to build. It doesn't look as good in an ornate setting, but look at it in a simple setting, and now you have sort of the classic mission or arts and crafts look. And this was the sort of beginning way, I guess, that Stickley and competitors built their furniture. They just said, hey, it's a simple design. We'll take the stiles all the way down. Now, why would you choose one of these over the other? Well, a lot of it depends on what you're trying to do or the rest of the pieces. I mean, if you've got a curved front, if you are wanting to elevate the piece, a lot of design decisions come down to what is your artistic flair and what the wood is. Now, in my case, if I was using something like white oak, which is really one of my favorite species, I would really go with something like this because there's enough complexity in the piece that it's going to balance with the very micro complexity of the white oak, and it's going to be very harmonious. If you're using something that is really simple like cherry with limited complexity in the wood, or maple. You can go really ornate so that you're not over competing with the wood. Now in my case, I'm going to use the gum that I used for the entry table project, and that wood is about as busy as I've ever seen. It goes from vanilla to cinnamon to rust, to chocolate and everything in between. So any of these other ways of building would compete with that wood. So I'm going to use the styles become legs method, and I'm going to use a single panel, which means I'm going to use a very large rail to give this panel structure. You could draw it split, you could do anything that suits you, but we're going to draw this particular piece of casework together, or at least I'm going to draw it, and hopefully you can watch. And I'm actually going to go as far as to draw all the joinery so you can see what the joinery looks like in a piece of casework like this. So let's get on to drawing. I like to start with a bounding box. It's just a shape that represents the top and the bottom. In this case, I'm going to do a piece of casework that's 22 inches deep by 30 inches wide. So 22, 30 gives me a box that is the bottom. I'll make that a group so it doesn't stick to anything. And I'll use move with option to make a copy that is 54 inches tall, because that's how high I want to make the casework. So now we have two planes that represent the size that we want to make our casework. So the first thing I like to make in terms of a real drawing item is the styles. So we'll come into the corner, we'll draw our style, and we'll make it a 3-inch style by 3/4 inches. Now if we look into our style, we need a cutout in the back for our plywood back if you use it. Easy way to do that is we'll get the tape tool, we'll come in a 1/4 inch, we'll come in a 1/4 inch, and that shows us the size of the knot, so we'll draw that in. That means we don't need these lines. And we can extrude that on up. So we'll select it, we'll push pull, and we'll push it 54 inches up to the top, because we know that's the top because we moved it up that high. So our first style is ready. Now we need to go ahead and decide how high we're going to make the rail, because the rail is above the bottom, leaves us room. So using the tape measure, we'll come up 2 inches and strike a line. That way we've got a point to go ahead and make our arc. Now to make the arc, I like to go ahead and use, there's several arc tools. This is the one that I prefer. You pick your top point, you pick your bottom point. I'll wait for the tangent, and I'll wait for the tangent. So now we've got an arc, and we can use push-pull to get rid of that. So we have one style. Now we do need a groove along this edge. Now we can't cut that groove through because it'll stop when it hits that groove. It'll stop when it hits this arc. And we don't want it to go all the way through anyway. So I'm going to come up a 1/4 inch. That's a 1/4. I'm going to come in a 1/4, in a 1/4, and I'm going to draw that rectangle the whole way through. I'll go all the way through the top. I've got to do a lot of moving around. We'll go to right there. we'll use a push-pull. We'll push that in, again, 1/4 inch so that we have our slot for our panel. That looks good. Now let's get rid of the guides for the time being. We'll select all of that, make it a group. And now I'm going to move it with Option to copy on this edge. Of course, you can't see what I'm doing. Let's get back in here. I'm going to move it to that edge. And I went a little far. All right, let me get that corner. There we go. Now it's facing the wrong way, but while we have the Move tool selected, we can come up here, rotate it 90 degrees, and we'll pop down to the bottom and make sure it's aligned correctly. And it isn't. Now we don't need the slot in the front. Should have left that in until I got it done, but that's okay. We'll close it in. And we'll just close it in with the push-pull tool. Whee! That takes care of that. Now we've got some extraneous geometry that leaves. And we don't like extraneous geometry. So now we have two styles, and let's go ahead and put in a rail. A rail is simply a rectangle drawn on the face, and I like a 5-inch rail. The rails I like on big panels, I like thicker rails than stiles because you need the tin and glue service. So we'll make this 5 by 3/4, and we can push it across to that surface there. I'll put the slot in it before I copy it. So another rectangle, and we've already got the points here. That one. Over to here. Push pull, go down 1/4 inch. Make this a group. Now we'll move it up. Option to copy. Sure I'm at the corner. That's it. Now it is upside down. We could rotate it, but we'll simply select it and do flip along the blue. So what that did is it moved the slot to the bottom. All right, now we need a panel. And the panel is the size of this opening plus 1/4 inch on each side. The easiest way to draw that is going to be to hide the two styles, and we'll draw another rectangle using the rail as a guide. Right there, and we'll do push-pull. And before we drag it all the way up, we know the sides need to come out a 1/4 inch to fit inside the stiles, so 1/4. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. There, now we'll view hidden geometry, and we'll unhide. Now we can pull this thing all the way up. Got to keep moving around. Now we need to take it to this point and then a 1/4 inch more. So we'll hide this and we'll come in here, select 1/4 inch, and that takes it inside that slot. And we'll unhide. So in very short order, we have a panel, and I'm going to make a group out of the center. Then I'm going to select it all, shift, 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 make sure I've got the center panel, and I'm going to make it a component, and we'll call it side. Now I'm going to use the move tool again to move a copy over. So M for move, option for copy. I'm going to drag the inside to become the outside. Now we have a problem if we start drawing on it now, in that this outside is this inside. So we need to turn this one inside out. We can do that by flip on green. You see the green axis running along here, so we're going to flip it on the green. So now we have thrown it out to where we've got inside to inside, outside is on the outside. So when we start drawing joinery on this inside, it will show up over here. Now we don't need these anymore because we've now established our own bounding box. So it's time to draw some drawer webs, and to do that we've got to determine how far they come. You could make them flush. I like the shadow line that is made by having them set back a small amount. And so, got a little bit of stray geometry here still. I didn't clean up the top. Take care of that. Anyway, on drawer webs, you can, I set mine back 1/8 of an inch. So I'll go ahead and mark 1/8 of an inch. So 1/8, and I'll turn on guide so we can see that. So that's where our drawer web will end on this side, or on the front, and on the back, the drawer web will end flush with the where the plywood back mounts. So a drawer web starts its life as a rectangle on a face, and it's on the front. And I will go 3 inches by 3/4. Now I can pull that across. Hold on, I was in the Controls easy. I was editing that component, and I don't want to be. Now we're back to where we want to be. Rectangle. 3 by 3/4. Pull it across to this face right here. There we go. Let's get back in the middle where you can see it's very hard to draw with this very small window that screen recording gives you. We'll make that a group, And there's Django. Every video. I'm going to turn off guides, and I'm going to move Option, grab the corner, and go to right there. All right, now we will draw the other line. So rectangle, and again that's 3 by 3 quarters. Oh, did it wrong. There we go. We'll push this out. Make it a group. Move Option to copy. Grab the inside face. It becomes the outside. So now we have an 1/8 inch reveal on the drawer web and a 1/4 inch reveal on the back for the plywood. Looks good. Now let's make all of this a component. And we need to copy them down as far as we dare, so let's get a line set up for us. Tape, we'll go right there and show guides. So we will copy it down to that intersection of our reveal and our level line with the rail. So move Option copy, grab the bottom, right there. Click, and I'll do /5 on the keyboard. And unless I mess up, that should give me 5 of them, equally spaced. So that takes care of the drawer webs. Turn off the guides. And now we'll draw some drawers. All right, drawers are pretty simple boxes, especially since we've already laid out what we want. We'll turn on guides, and we have our existing 1/8 inch reveal. So we'll come back another 1/8 inch for a 1/4 total. And that'll give us a point where our drawer stops. When I get to where we can see the inside face. There we go. And we'll put a rectangle in here. Oh, didn't quite get it right. There we go. We'll draw it up, and our drawer faces will make 3/4 inch stock. Let's see, 3/4. Can't type today. Okay, so there's our drawer face. Push pull. We'll come back to that surface right there. And now that we have a drawer, we'll make it a group, or drawer face rather. And we've got to draw the back before we can join them. The back, I don't like drawers pressed firm against the back, so I'll come up 1/4 again and do a rectangle. Back and sides, I make a 1/2 inch, so 1/2 size. I'll pull this out. Get stuck in the model periodically, but that's okay. I went too far. We want to land right on that guy. There we go. I'll make him a group. Now we got to draw the sides, and since we know where the top is, we can go ahead and hide the I'll turn off the guides, make it easy to see. Sides are just another rectangle. It helps to select the plane you want to be on, rectangle. Again, we'll make them 1/2 inch stock. And we'll do push-pull. And we'll push it back to this side here. And we'll make it a group. And we will move it using Option to copy over to this side. Now we ought to put a bottom in, and to do that I will go ahead and make it to where we can see what we're doing here. Let's hide this guy. That was the back, so we'll come in and view guides. 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, so it's 1/4 inch up, 1/4 inch bottom. But let's go ahead and cut it out first. So to cut it, we'll go ahead and hide the side. So there's our mark. And we'll go ahead and make a rectangle here to cut out. We do push-pull. Actually, nope, can't do that. I've got to be editing that component. And I'll hit it so it inferences. And just to double check, I'll do a tape for 1/4 inch. Because I don't think it did it right. That's better. Get rid of that. That's better. Push-pull. Now this will be hard to do, but we'll push it in and we'll come get it from the other side. Actually, we can do it easier by hiding him. And him. And away we go. So he's done. And we'll view hidden items, and we'll unhide that drawer slide. I mean the drawer side, rather. And we'll do the same thing. So tape, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. I'm going to edit rectangle, push-pull. There, he's gone. All right, now we can simply reuse him. We'll view hidden. We'll unhide. Unhide. So we made a groove on the front and the one side. So we'll just delete him. And we'll move him over since he's got a groove on him. And there's the front. Turn off guides. So he's got a groove on the wrong side, but that's not a big deal. We'll take him and we will flip him along the green axis. So now his groove's on the right side. And we can do the same thing for the back. Delete. Grab him, move, option, take the outside face and put it in. And this is the red axis, so flip along red axis. That groove comes in. Now the one thing we do need to do is shorten this. We copied a 3/4 inch piece, and it's a 1/2 inch for the back and the side, so we'll shorten it. Oops, I'm sorry, it should have been 1/4. Can't type tonight. All right, so there is a drawer. Now before we get too far afield, let's go ahead and make a bottom. Easiest way to do that, I will hide we'll just use this trough as a guide. Make a rectangle. I want to be sure I get, can't go too far. Be sure I get in, push, pull. There we go. Now I need to bring these sides out 1/4 to fit in the groove on the front and back. And zoom out 1/4. And now I'll bring him all the way across to mate with his partner on the other side. So he's in the slot. And we will now unhide the other parts of the drawer. Might as well unhide the web and unhide the other side. So now we have a drawer that is functionally correct. We'll make a group out of the bottom. And we will select all parts of the drawer. And we'll make a component. Now we need to make more of them, so we'll use move, option, grab the corner, and we'll come down and I'm going to hold down the blue, and then I'll do /4. So that's 4 drawers. Get where we can see. So we have 4 drawers, 5 drawer webs, 2 sides. Next thing we need is a top, and then we can draw some joinery. Top's easy, it's a rectangle. Just go corner to corner. I'm going to pull it up 1 inch. Now we have to give ourselves an overhang, so I'm going to go 1 inch. and I'll make the top a group. So that is the functional point of the chest of drawers. Now, if I were building it, I would stop here because that's enough for me to sort of take it and run with it, because most of the joinery I do on the fly and say, okay, I'm making this, I need to make it bigger. But let's go ahead and draw it so we can actually see what it's like and how you can do some joinery with SketchUp. Now, I will say there's a couple different tools that I'm going to use, some of which you may not have, may not want, but I'm going to show you a workaround where you can do it manually. So we're going to do joinery. For the sake of what we're going to do, we don't need the drawers or the top, so we'll hide those because all our joinery is going to be restricted to the casework. Now, I should forewarn you, when we're doing the joinery, I'll probably end up deleting a lot of pieces that we made, because if I put the joinery into this rail, I'll simply be able to copy it down to the bottom rail and then flip it. We did need to draw it in place earlier, so we got all the positioning of everything we needed. We'll start with an easy bit, which are the horizontal dovetails that hold the top drawer web in place. Before we do that, though, since this top drawer web is different than all the others have either sliding dovetails or stopped dados, we'll make this one unique so that our work that we do on this one isn't reproduced to all the others. So the first thing we'll do is we'll give ourselves a margin to go by. We'll go in 1/4 inch. I better turn guides back on, and we will get to where we are working on this piece, and we'll decide what we want as a dovetail, and we'll just draw it in with a line. Again, this is not a show joint, it's a structure joint. So we want to stay far enough away from this edge that we don't run the risk of cracking it. So we'll come in that far, and we'll go something like that. And then the same can be said for this haunch tenon. We'll come in this far, look for a similar angle, and then we'll connect them. And that works. Not symmetrical, but it'll hold it in. Now this piece, we will go ahead and make a copy of it for the other side for now. And it's on, but we need to flip it. So we will flip it along the green axis, I believe. And now we'll move it over. Of course, it's not happy. And we'll get it in the right place. And we'll delete one we had to leave behind to make it work. Oh no, Command Z, Control Z. So the next step is to extrude that dovetail, and we can easily do that by hiding the panel, and I gotta rotate it, so we just extrude it. I got to get back in the right context. Down to here. And we'll go look at the other side. We'll hide that. And we'll extrude that. And we'll get rid of the extraneous line. So now we've drawn our dovetail portion, and we'll view our hidden items. And we'll unhide. And we'll unhide. We'll turn off guides for the time being. All right, so we've drawn the dovetail, and now we need to cut the style to make it fit. Now I'll show you the manual way. The manual way is we select the element, we go into edit mode, and we'll just trace it. Now we'll hide this. And we know our stock is 3/4, so we can just push it down 3/4 of an inch. And now we'll find out if I positioned the other one correctly, and I don't think I did. So we did the cutout. Let's view our hidden. And unhide. No, I did get it right. Good, spot on. Now how do you know that worked? Well, take a look at X-ray mode. So we have our joinery in. We are well away from where that haunch tenon is going to come. That looks good. So let's leave X-ray mode. Now we need to do the same thing on the back of the drawer web, and here's where we'll cheat. Since we've already drawn this one, we'll go into this item, we'll delete that, we'll take this one, move option to copy, we'll drag the inside face over here, and now we'll simply evaluate how we want to change it. Well, it looks like we didn't get much from the move. If we do it here, we're really too close to this, where this haunch tenon is going to come up. Oh well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So we'll go ahead and undo that. So we'll draw a different one here. We'll get into the context of editing that one. We'll get a line, and we'll come well away from the haunch tenon. So I need a tape. Come over 3/4 of an inch, so I know how. So that looks fine. And we'll come well away from the slide. And that works. So we can hide this side. Same thing, we will extrude it. With push-pull. Got to get into the context. And we'll do the other side. No sense copying it. I think it takes more keystrokes to copy it. We'll just draw what we want here. Grab our line tool. We do need a tape. We want to go out a 1/2 inch. come well away from the haunch, come in, come well away from the end and come in. We'll connect them. And now we'll hide the side. And we'll extrude this down. So that gives us both. We got an extraneous line. Get rid of that. We'll get rid of that. Now we'll make the offsetting cuts in our sides. So we'll show our hidden, unhide, unhide, and don't show our hidden anymore, and we'll turn off guide so we can see what we're doing. Now it was the back we already cut, so now we've got to work on the front. So I'll get into edit mode for this piece, and I'm going to trace what we need to cut. I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. Well, that should already be drawn. I think it was the back we already did. Yeah, this is one we haven't done. And I was mistaken to have copied it because it needs to be identical, because when we make the cut, it's going to cut them both. So what we'll do is we'll get rid of this one. Let's make sure this is the one that we need to get rid of. Yep, we haven't cut this one yet. So I'll get rid of him, or at least hide him, and I'll undo this one. That's perfect. It's so hard to keep this in the view that you all can see. Get rid of him, and we'll grab the eraser tool. Perfect. Now why do we do that? Well, when we cut this side of the style, it's going to cut the other side, and then we'll simply make the dovetail to match the cut we make, because they have to be identical. And speaking of that, we'll go ahead and draw it. And that works. Hide that. And we can push this down if we get in edit mode, 3/4 of an inch. And that should have done the other side as well. And we'll view, let me get rid of this line we put when we weren't in the right context. Now if we view hidden, select the other side, unhide, we now have the cut on the other side, which is why we had to undo it. So let's put our drawer web back in. Now if we go into edit mode, we're going to do the reverse. We'll go into edit mode for him, and we'll trace the hole. And now we'll simply extrude that. Hide. Go to edit mode. And we'll pull it down. And we'll get rid of our extraneous geometry. All right, view hidden. Get our side panel. So that does all of the top web joinery. Now we'll tackle the lower webs, and it will go a lot faster because they are all identical, and we will be able to gang process all of them just by working on one. And then we will tackle the haunched mortise and tenon in the stile and rail right there. With the stop dados, the bottom 5 web frames are all identical, so we really only have to draw one. You could do this with a through dovetail that would be very similar to here, except rotated and coming forward. But let's go ahead and hide a side, and we'll draw the elements that we need. Now this is the side with the dado for the back, so this is the back. For the back, it doesn't matter, there is no stop, so the whole thing has to be able to slide in. So the back is all the way through. So we'll go ahead and pick one at random and edit it, and we'll pull this out 1/4 inch. And so that will be what sits in the dado slot that is cut in the rear stile. And now they all got pulled out just fine. The fronts, however, have a stop dado, doesn't go all the way through, so we need to make a mark, and we'll go 1/4 inch, and I'll turn on guides. So we'll need a line, and we'll pull this out 1/4 inch. So now this dado will stop before it hits the face. Now we can't go deeper than 1/4 inch because if you remember, we've got a 3/4 inch stock for the stiles and rails and a 1/4 inch panel. Even if it's a raised panel, it would still only have 1/4 inch of space on the inside, and to be able to slide it through then, that's as far as we can make it come out. That takes care of one side. We'll go take care of the other side. We'll hide that. Won't have much model left before too long. And let's be sure we get it right. This is the front. So we'll come here with tape. Let's get in the context first. We'll come back 1/4 inch. We'll draw a line. Went too far. And we'll push-pull this 1/4 inch. And the back is easy. We just have to get into context and push-pull it 1/4 inch. So that is ultimately our finished drawer frames. Now let's put our sides back on. We'll view hidden, select that, unhide, select that side, unhide, unview hidden, and get rid of the guides. So now we have to carve these holes into the stiles. Now I'm going to make one set, and then I'm going to copy them all the way down, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So let's start with a line. Let's get in the right context. Now you could do this with intersect faces. It's a tool in SketchUp, but since these are components, so we get mirrored output, it really makes that difficult. So it's easiest just to do it this way, at least in my experience. And then I'm going to come over to the other side. And come up with a line here to here. And here to here. Now I'm way inside the model now, so I'll come back over here. Now this line I drew on the front is not the line we want to cut to. We have to come back 1/4 inch. So let's see what that looks like if we hide that drawer web. So we'll come back 1/4 inch, and rather than doing anything complicated, we'll get in the context, and we'll do move, and we'll move it 1/4 back. There. Let's get out to where we can see. Now what I'm going to do is move this outline down and copy it. So I need 1, 2, 3, I need 4 of them. So let's first get it. And now we'll do move, option. I'll pick the corner. And I'll force it to be on the blue axis, and I'll hold it down, and I'll go 4. I don't know if I did it right. Of course, we won't know until we hide these. So let's hide it and see. Yep, did it right. So now we'll copy the back one and make 4 copies. And that one didn't get drawn onto it. So I'll go ahead and draw this one onto it now that I'm in the right context. And I think I got it. Actually, let me delete the ones that are outside of context. Well, I'm just going to have to hide it. Well, no, they're all in context. That's okay then. There they are. They're in the component, just not the context. Now I can move these. So I'll grab the outside, move, copy. Click, and 4. So let's see what we got. Hide. 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 So we have our one that will be a haunch. So let's go in here, or the stop data. Let's get in context. Push pull. Push it in 1/4. And with push pull tool, if you double click, it simply does your last move. Now we'll get in context for this style. And that should have been both of them, because remember we rotated the faces in the beginning. So now we have the through dados on the rear style and the stop dados on the front style, and you can see it just cuts through to the 1/4 inch for the panel. It takes care of that. Now we'll view hidden, and we'll unhide the drawer frames. Don't know why. All right, so next up, and the last joinery, will be the haunched mortise and tenons in here. And for that one is the one I am going to use a plugin for, because it is a bit complex. All right, let's tackle this last bit of joinery, and that is the haunched mortise and tenon in the rails. To make that easy to start with, we'll go into this component. We'll hide each of the styles, and we'll take a look at what we have. And I'll go ahead and hide the drawer web as well. Now this one's pretty straightforward. It's easy to draw. The tenon will come in 1/4, turn on guides, come in another 1/4, and this will be our tenon. We're going to come down 3/4 of an inch. That will be the size of the haunch. Now we'll draw some rectangles. Now the bottom one will come out 1 inch, and the top one will come out 1/4 to fit in the slot that's cut in the side of the stiles. That is one side, and we'll go ahead and draw the other side, which will come down 3/4 for the haunch. We'll draw our rectangles. Will come out 1/4, and will come out 1. Oop, miskeyed that one. it's bound. I got to do the long one first. All right, so that is how our rails will look. Now, while the sides are hidden, we'll go ahead and copy these rails over. All right, we've got to copy the joinery on the rail over to the other rails. And at this point, it's easiest to simply take this one piece we've drawn and duplicate it across. And to do that, I will explode these components. Reason being is I'm going to take one element from one component and put it in another. To do that, we'll simply delete these other rails. And this rail is a carbon copy. Though it did not take the joinery. We can fix that. There we go. And I'm going to simply move this rail over. So move, option to copy, and I want it on the plane. And now we'll take this one here and move it down, but we'll take it from the top. Actually, we'll take it from the bottom because we're going to line it up with the bottom of the stretcher. So move, option to copy, take the corner, I just take the face. And we got it in the wrong position, but that's okay. We'll move it back. Now this one is needs to be rotated because we've got our dado on the bottom and we have our haunch in the top, and it needs to be in the bottom. So we can take it and go 90 degrees. So that gives us exactly what we're looking for. And with that one correctly done, we can move, option to copy. And I'm going to take it to the outside face. And I'm going to constrain it to the green axis. We'll show our hidden items and turn back on our styles. Be sure we got everything the way it needs to be. And this one needs to come over. Oh, stop that. Check the top, he's good. That was when we drew from. Let's check the bottom. Now he's good. So the last step in the haunch, mortise, and tenon is to extrude that tenon to create a mortise into the stiles. Now you could do it the way I've done the others and trace the geometry, do a series of push-pulls to make the cut. But in the interest of time, in this case, I'm going to go ahead and use a tool. It's called Bool Tools, and I'll show you how it works. So I'm going to basically do a trim, and I will select the part to be cut, and then the cutter. Not a valid solid. Yeah, don't know why it said it's not a valid solid. Let's see if we got a cut. We can do that by hiding. You can see we have a 1-inch tenon. The 1/4 was already there for the haunch, and then you have 1 inch that rides just on top of where the stile or the panel abuts. So that worked just fine. Now we'll cut the other side, and then we'll just cut them all since we know we've got the right tool. So view hidden items, unhide, trim again, part to be cut, the part that's doing the cutting. Don't know why we're getting the error. I might have an open face somewhere. Part to be cut, part that's doing the cutting. Part to be cut, part that's doing the cutting. And we'll come down and do the bottom. Part to be cut, part that's doing the cutting. Part to be cut, part that's doing the cutting. Again, 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 again. I don't know if we did the top up on this side or not. We'll hide it, come in and take a look. Yeah, we've got a cut in there. But it is, the panel was a little high. We drew the panel just a tad bit too tall. And the mortise is not centered. Ah, that's why. There we go. Let's fix that. I didn't look at the top. There we go. And I undid the cuts. Let's double check the bottom before we cut it. He's good. He's good. All right, so we'll redo our cuts. Trim, part to be cut, cutter. 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 And I believe that's all of it. So we'll turn on everything. Now there's one area of joinery we're done with Bool Tools that we didn't draw, and that is for your dust webs, drawer webs. And historically they'd be a mortise and tenon, but in modern days you would join this with a biscuit or a domino or some sort of other structure. It's not a structural joint. This part of the web is holding this edge is holding the carcass together, as well as this edge. There's no stresses on this particular piece, so a biscuit or domino would be fine here. So if I were building this, I would not do mortise and tenon joints there. I would just do some sort of off-the-shelf joinery. Let's go ahead and show everything now. And I forgot the top dust web. All right, so there is our cabinet, our chest of drawers. And let's verify that we do indeed have all of the joinery that we talked about. We've got our mortises and tenons in the top. We have our horizontal dovetail down on the top drawer web. We have our stop dado in for our drawer web. We have our non-stop dado in on the back. And you can see we also have our slot for the panel. Get an idea of how the joinery all comes together down here. We've got our stop dado coming in and stopping right at the same point that we have our haunch tenon. Haunch tenon then comes up into a larger tenon. Fits very nicely. I'll turn off X-ray mode, and that's probably where we should stop in the interest of brevity. Would I draw the joinery in a piece I was designing? I think I touched on this before. No, unless it was really complex. Typically, if I'm cutting the for frame and panel joinery or frame and panel construction, if I'm cutting the rails, I know in my head I'm going to do a 1-inch tenon, so I'll cut the pieces 2 inches longer than the plan, and then when I get to the piece I'll evaluate, oh, I need to do a haunch tenon here because a full tenon will make the piece weak. Most of those decisions you can sort of make once you've made a piece or two. Again, certainly wouldn't draw the stopped dados or the through dovetails in the drawer webs. You simply know that, hey, there's got to be some sort of joinery. I've only got a 1/4 inch space between the inside of the panel and the rest of the carcass, so it can only be a 1/4 inch. Most of those you sort of make while you're in the shop. But either way, I wanted to show you how you can use SketchUp to design a piece of furniture completely with every cut, every joint, every process. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it helps you with your woodworking journey. If you have any questions about what else you can do with SketchUp as it relates to woodworking, just ask. Next step for me is I'm going to start building this so we can see this process from conceptualization all the way through construction. And I hope for a lot of beginning or intermediate furniture makers that don't have any problem with the craft of making sawdust and wood chips, but really want to take their design to the next level where they're designing their own products, their own pieces, that this is a good step forward. Anyway, thanks for watching, and good luck on all your projects.